The tech industry is in a crazy place right now. Entry-level jobs are disappearing, AI is taking over, and it's more competitive now than ever before. Hi, my name's Daniel. I'm a software engineer and I want to share my thoughts on what's been going on in tech and maybe give you some pointers on how to make it in this field. So the first thing I want to address are the feelings around the state of tech right now. These days, you see a lot of headlines about AI and how tech jobs are disappearing. I don't know about you, but I get pretty anxious when I see stuff like this. And once I watch one video on YouTube, suddenly my entire algorithm is flooded with doomer content, and my anxiety just piles on. The problem with this is that it fills you with hopelessness, and it makes thinking about pursuing software engineering more and more daunting. When this happens, your mind might fill you with thoughts like, I'll never be a developer. This industry is too unstable, so there's no point. I wasted studying tech all these years. But this is because of raised levels of cortisol, which is your stress hormone. This leads to black and white thinking, like it's impossible to find a job, even though reality may be more nuanced than that. Thousands of years ago, this was useful to humans. If you saw a tiger, you don't have time to think, is this tiger going to eat me? No, you have to think fast. You either run or you fight. So in a similar sense, if you have a thought like, it's pointless, it's a very conclusive and rigid statement. This can really affect your motivation because your options become so limited. It's important to realize that these are emotional responses from increased stress. Take a step back and notice these thoughts. There's this idea of metacognition where you think about thinking. I have another video about this, which I'll link below. But essentially, it's about how you think about the thoughts and emotions that you feel. If you feel anxious about AI, naturally you think it's hopeless. But think about where that feeling comes from. It comes from your anxious emotions. A great exercise for this is to reframe statements from "it's hopeless" to "my mind is telling me it's hopeless." Then step back and think, okay, my mind is telling me that it's hopeless in tech because of AI, but is it really hopeless? There are still job postings. Software engineers are still around. And even beyond software engineering, life offers countless paths. If you notice your thoughts that arise from anxiety, you can begin to overcome them, giving you more control over your behavior and take action. The more you practice this, the better you'll get at it, and the more clarity and confidence you'll develop in yourself. What I want to talk about next is something I think is so common in tech, and that's procrastination. Tell me if this resonates with you. You want to get into tech, you look at how to get started. Okay, there's like 50 programming languages. Cool. Then there's like 20 frameworks for each language. All right. Then you figure out there's front end and back end and Android and iOS, then thousands of libraries, then databases, then distributed systems, then data science, then cloud, then AI. And now all of a sudden, you're standing at the bottom of this giant mountain of crap that you gotta figure out. You know what I end up doing in this type of situation? Absolutely nothing. Why is that? It's because the brain is actually very efficient. What's happening is your brain is calculating the amount of effort to achieve something. It figures out, okay, if I want to get to having zero knowledge to becoming a full-time software developer, I have to learn this monumental amount of knowledge. Then it says, okay, that's going to take way too much effort. So instead, let's just conserve our energy and do nothing. Or let's play a game of League. So what do we do about that? One technique to tackle this type of procrastination is to break down the problem. When you give your brain a task like become a software developer, it has no idea how to go about doing that, so it just gives up. This may take some practice and research, but think about what steps you would need to take. For example, this process may look something like this. What kind of developer do I want to be? Let's say a full stack developer focused on large language models. Okay, what kinds of things would I need to learn? Well, after some Googling, I can figure out that there's some front-end component, back-end component, and some AI concepts I need to know. These components can be broken down even more with a bit of high-level research. Things about front-end I can learn about is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React. For backend, I can learn stuff like Node.js, Python, databases like Postgres and MySQL. If I want to build something with AI, I can learn more about how large language models work in general, how integration with AI APIs work, how to fine-tune, how to use retrieval augmented generation, and prompt engineering. Once I have some things I know I should learn, I can break those things down even further. If I want to learn more about the basics of front-end like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, what can I do? I could sign up for courses, watch YouTube tutorials, or build a small project. Let's say I want to try watching YouTube tutorials. How do I get started with that? I can use Google to find tutorials about front-end. Once I find a video or a series I like, I can start watching it. At this point, I can even break down these seemingly simple tasks even further if I need to. How can I start watching this YouTube video? Well, first, I have to get out of bed, turn on my computer, open a browser, search for the video, and then watch the first 30 seconds of that video. You can see that you can break it down as much as you'd like, depending on what you find manageable. As soon as you think that a task is too overwhelming, it means you haven't broken it down enough. Doing something as small as watch the first 30 seconds of a YouTube video is much more manageable than become a software developer, right? This is the key to start rewiring your brain to make progress. As you execute on each step, you make a mental checkbox, or even a physical one if you wrote the steps down, which gives you a small reward for accomplishing something. But let's say you're able to figure out what you need to do to become a software developer. There may still be a roadblock there. You know you should start watching a YouTube tutorial or start working on the first function of your programming project. But why can't you bring yourself to start? Or maybe you've made progress on a project, but you lost motivation halfway through and you just sent that side project off into the graveyard along with your 20 other projects. This could come from perfectionism. Whenever I worked on a project or think about working on it, I usually have a grand vision for it. These thoughts stop me from even starting because I want the project to be perfect. Or sometimes I'm able to get started, but I quickly realize how imperfect my results are, which demotivate me to keep on going. So, what's going on here? Well, it all has to do with ego, or your identity you hold about yourself. For me, the thing that stopped me from following through was my identity of being talented or the best. My parents always praised me and told me I was talented as I was growing up. This led me to develop a strong ego that tied my identity as a gifted person or someone who should be the best in whatever they do. If I worked on a programming project and the results weren't perfect, I had thoughts like, this project isn't good enough, so I'm just gonna give up on it. Why did this happen? Well, if I followed through and created a shitty project, what does that say about my identity? It means I'm not talented or I'm not the best. So in order to protect myself from that reality, I just gave up on these projects and they never saw the light of day. This way, my ego could still say, I'm a talented person and I'm better than everyone else, and that I could make this project great, but I'm just lazy. This gave me a lot of comfort from the potential reality that I'm not the best and that I'm not necessarily talented. A strong ego will protect you from things that conflict with your identity at all costs, which affect your motivation and drive to get started. So the key here is to dig deep and figure out, what is your ego protecting you from? If you don't get started on a project, what does that mean for you as a person? If you're working on a project and you're not feeling satisfied with it, how does the thought of giving up make you feel about who you are? These types of questions bring awareness to your sense of identity and who you believe you are. Once you notice this part of yourself, they begin to hold less power over you. For me, I slowly realized that it's okay for me to not be perfect, or someone who's not talented, or someone who's not the best at everything. I freed myself from my burden of ego, and this allowed me to create things just for the fun of it and enjoy the feeling that what I built today has made me a better developer. The last thing I want to talk to you about is intrinsic motivation. I want you to ask yourself, what do you truly enjoy about working as a developer? Is it the feeling of creating something cool? Is it solving complex problems? Is it to make the world a better place? Is it the collaboration with other bright people? Or is it because of the high-paying salary? Is it because you want a cushiony job? Is it because you can sit at a computer and work from home? Maybe it's a combination of all of these things. And I'm not saying it's bad or invalid to want to be a developer because of its extrinsic qualities. But it's important to truly understand your underlying motivations. This is because ultimately, being a developer isn't about your knowledge or skills, but rather the manner in which you undertake it. Think about software engineering for its inherent qualities. Being able to create something you're proud of, feeling the progression of becoming a better developer, solving interesting puzzles and problems, meeting like-minded people and working with them. And you don't need to be born with a passion for development. You can develop it over time by figuring out how these inherent qualities connect with you. Focusing your mind on the progress and the actions instead of the result is much more sustainable for motivation. And ironically, this will lead to the results you were chasing for in the first place. You'll develop intrinsic motivation, gain expertise, and confidence in yourself. So just to summarize, we talked about anxiety and how it can affect your stress levels. This stress increases your cortisol, which makes you think in black and white and limits the way you perceive your options. Take a step back and notice these thoughts, and this will give you better control over them and allow yourself to see more possibilities. We also talked about ways to tackle procrastination, like breaking down problems and executing on each step to make it less daunting for your brain. Having this mental path of checkpoints gives your brain small rewards as you progress. But even once you figure out these steps, there can be a sense of perfectionism that hold you back. This comes from ego, protecting you from some negative feeling. So it's important to ask what certain actions or inactions mean for you as a person. Lastly, asking yourself the main reason why you got into tech helps you discover more intrinsic motivation. What are the qualities of software engineering that connect with you? Once you start focusing on these qualities and the processes of working with them instead of the end result, creates a more sustainable type of motivation. I know it's hard, especially now more than ever. There isn't an easy way anymore in tech. But if you're curious and enjoy software engineering for what it is, then you'll be successful. Actually, if you're really enjoying it now, then I consider you already a success. And if it still doesn't speak to you, then at least you learned more about yourself and why it may not be the field for you. Good luck on your journey. I know you'll find the right path for yourself. I hope that helped you in some small way today, and I'll see you later. Peace.